everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I'll be your astrologer today. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hope your week is off to a good start. I want to talk to you all about Mercury moving into the sign of Virgo. We're going to do an in-depth look at the transit, including the Mercury Retrograde that'll be taking place in this next month. Do me a favor, if you're new to my channel, make sure you click the button below and you're subscribed. Give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from and say hello. And to all of you guys who are returning, welcome back. To all of my members also, and those of you guys who donate and support my channel, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. We are inching closer to almost 25,000 subscribers. Halfway to the next goal of 50K. So make sure you're subscribed to help me reach that goal. And you know, this, just off the bat, I'm gonna tell you guys, first of all, this entire video is going to be a really great example of what I'm gonna be talking to you guys about today, about eventually Mercury's retrograde through Virgo, and all of the aspects and how it's going to really be about making tweaks and making changes, adjustments, for better clarity, better understanding. You hear a lot of stuff about, you know, planets going through Virgo. I think Virgo placements get a bad rap, but we need these transits to help perfect things. Same thing with Mercury retrograde. So don't be afraid of the retrograde throughout this transit. It's actually going to make a number of really positive aspects that's going to help everybody see things much more clearly, and hopefully use a little bit more common sense. But the reason why I said this is a really good example, and I didn't even realize it until we sat down to film this, I was like, oh my God, I made so many changes. It's literally just like this, this particular video. I'm using a different chart dynamic in this video. Truth be told, I'm doing everything I can to not wear glasses on camera. So I'm making everything a little bit darker. We're tweaking some stuff and seeing how it works, just using different settings with my software. If you guys like the darker dynamic setting better, and it's easier for you also to see or read, please let me know. I really appreciate your feedback. If you like the lighter setting, totally fine, just let me know, because we're trying to obviously make these tweaks so it's good for you guys, but it's also hopefully gonna save my eyes in the long term. And you'll be seeing little tweaks and things that I'm making also to the set, because I'm trying to reorganize some stuff. I'm Scorpio, I'm having Venus retrograde, so it's kind of going through technically my 11th house, but it does relate to my career. So obviously all of these things are in full swing. I'm hearing a lot of feedback from people who want to hear more about dates and things like that. So I hear you. We're going to make sure that that's on all the videos. It always is. If you guys look at the top left-hand corner, when we do the split screen, you will always see up there the date for the transits. I also give you all of this information in order, but see, maybe we'll make some tweaks and put some stuff in the description below, because I'm hearing your guys' feedback and I want to make sure that we make it easier for everybody. So let's just jump right into it. Mercury is going to be moving into Virgo here just later in this next week. And Mercury will be spending from July 28th through September 15th, 2023. Mercury is a planet that deals with communication. It deals with business, travel, tech, data. So these are all the themes relating to Mercury. And it will be moving through its home sign of Virgo, which is a mutable earth sign. Now the retrograde, off the bat, it's not going to be for a while, don't worry, but it will be affecting 8 through 21 degrees of Virgo. So if you have any placements there, any personal planets, maybe you're Virgo, sun, moon, or rising, this retrograde is going to be more personal for you. And it's also your ruling planet. So I would just take a note if you have any planets within those degrees. Now Virgo rules things like healthcare workers, teachers, accountants, writers, editors. It deals with health and nutrition and healers, helpers. So I think that this might be affecting these groups of people a little bit more. We might be hearing in the news or in the world that there is some kind of reorganization or reworking, or looking more in depth into these particular topics. And the retrograde, like I said, it's not going to affect us for a little while. But just as a reminder, because we are going to be coming into shadow, we might start feeling the effects of that a little bit earlier, which basically means even though Mercury won't go retrograde, we're feeling kind of the effects of the Mercury retrograde early. So I just wanted to give you guys a couple of tips just to think about, because, you know, being forewarned is being prepared. Just some things that come up during a Mercury retrograde period. Tip number one is make sure you back up all of your important information in data, whether that's just, you know, uploading it onto the cloud, or if you want to, you know, put it on like a separate hard drive, if you want to back up your phone. These are things that can be really helpful in the off chance that we have some communication issues or some tech glitches, so that way you're not losing important information. So whether you believe in Mercury retrograde or not, Mercury retrograde believes in you. It's not always a good idea. It's always a good idea to back up important data regularly, but more so now than usual. This includes files on your computer, your phone, or any other digital device. I would also recommend, especially during the retrograde, this one in particular, avoid signing important contracts. If possible, try to avoid signing significant contracts or making important legal decisions during this retrograde. It's the belief that communication, you know, may have issues. We might have some misunderstandings, so it's better to wait until after the retrograde when things are a little bit more stable. In this case, I would say you want to wait, not only then, but, you know, you're going to see like a trine to Jupiter several times, which means that we might get better results. We might get a higher raise. We might negotiate a better term. We might learn something new and then kind of change our mind, right? So just take that for what it's worth. Double check communications also. So that's really important because, you know, things can go missing. There could be spelling errors. There can be obviously misunderstandings via email or text message. So double check all of your lines of communication, emails, texts, and important messages to ensure that we are being clear. Although I know that Mercury in this sign is generally pretty good about that stuff, the retrograde and some of the aspects that we're also going to be seeing eventually to Neptune can lead to some missing information or details that we have kind of overlooked. Be patient with technology. That's something else I would remind everyone, you know, because during Mercury retrogrades, we can see glitches. Be patient with your devices act up, and consider troubleshooting or seeking tech support if needed, especially during this retrograde, because Mercury in this sign deals with helpers. So if you're having a digital, you know, tech issue, if you're having a communication issue, if you're having a health issue, if you're having an issue with a coworker, seek assistance, right? Talk to HR, even though you may not want to, you know, be willing to check in with your doctor or take your dog to the vet, because we want to reconnect during a retrograde with the people that can help us the most. Reflect and reevaluate. So embrace introspective nature. I think retrograde periods are a perfect time to reflect on your goals, your projects, and previous relationships. It can be a good time to reevaluate and make adjustments where needed. Be cautious with your travel plans, okay? So if possible, try to avoid making last-minute travel plans during the retrograde. If you must travel, be prepared for potential delays. Stay flexible. Put tags on your bags, right? Make sure you triple check your reservations. Ensure that you're maybe considering travel insurance as well in the off chance that something comes up and you have to make a change. Practice mindfulness and self-care. This is especially important in the sign of Virgo. Some people find that retrograde periods can be very emotionally challenging. So engaging in mindful practices such as meditation and other self-care activities can help you stay grounded. And self-care is not limited just to, you know, meditating. Some themes that are going to come up with this retrograde is getting organized, right? Getting clean, getting sober, and coming up with a solid routine that you can kind of stick to that can better help you stay on track. And avoid making impulsive decisions because Mercury retrograde is not a time for making impulsive decisions. Take your time with all important choices and gather all the necessary information before moving forward. especially considering the fact that during the retrograde, there is a process, right? The pre-shadow, we start to see the gunk kind of kicked up. The retrograde is when we can kind of work through it, and when it goes direct and we move out of the shadow, finally we have kind of worked something out in a series of events. And finish pending tasks. I think this is great for Virgo because it's about kind of getting back to our to-do list and making sure we're playing catch up. Use the period before the retrograde to complete pending tasks and tie up loose ends so you don't feel overwhelmed during the retrograde. That is why I'm putting this video out early, so you guys can kind of really benefit from that. I also think it's a good idea to put this out prior to the Saturn opposition because it's going to be harder to communicate during that time, and also it's going to give you the heads up of what you need to kind of tweak. And I love some of the aspects throughout the retrograde because to me it feels like the trines to Jupiter is really where it's at. It's going to allow all of us to, I think, feel better grounded, more so aware, and really experience the growth necessary to kind of find that balance that we need in the Virgo area of our life. And more, I guess, in closing, and probably one of the more important ones is stay open-minded, right? Especially because Mercury is about the mind, it's about information. So we can change our mind during a Mercury retrograde. Oftentimes that happens. Retrogrades are about reversals. So if something hasn't been working, you can kind of go back to how you used to do it, or you can revisit, making a tweak or making a change. Not everybody subscribes to astrology, and I understand that, but I do feel like even those who aren't really astrologically kind of savvy, I talk to people all the time that are like, they'll text me, what's going on right now? Like everything just feels so hectic. And oftentimes I get that text or that email during a Mercury retrograde. So staying open-minded, being willing to kind of rework or, review something or reconnect with someone can be really helpful. And I think many people may actually be consulting with the cosmos because towards the tail end of this retrograde, we're actually going to see that Mercury is going to trine Jupiter, I think for like the third time, and then it's going to come into a trine with Uranus. So I think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, maybe I should have listened to my horoscope this month. I don't know, we'll see. So those are just my hot tips about the retrograde. Once again, that's going to be taking place from 21 degrees through 8 degrees of Virgo. So you'll actually see Mercury turn retrograde at 21 and it will return to 8 degrees. And that is what kind of a retrograde period is about. You'll see a planet go through the degrees that it has already moved through, and then it will slow down and go direct. Now the pre-shadow, which is going to be starting here pretty quickly, and this is when you're going to start seeing that Mercury is going to be coming into the degrees which it will retrograde through, so 8, 9, 10 degrees of Virgo, will begin on August 3rd, 2023. The post-shadow, and this is where we'll be feeling the effects of the retrograde through, even after the retrograde, will be September 30th. So too long, didn't listen. Essentially, you're going to feel the retrograde as early as August 3rd. It's not really going to be over until closer to October 1st. But the retrograde itself will be from August 23rd to September 15th, 2023. So if you're like, just give me that date, I don't want to sign anything during that particular time, so be it. Obviously, Mercury retrogrades, generally 3 times a year. Sometimes we get lucky and we have a 4th one. And I know that life has to go on, so things happen. But if you're more mindful of some of the aspects that are going to be taking place and where to kind of find those sweet spots, even in the middle of the retrograde, at least you'll have the days that are going to be a little bit kind of easier to work with. Now, Mercury going retrograde in the sign of Virgo. Obviously, because it is in its home sign, I really do think one of the big themes is that we are going to see some communication issues, first and foremost. Especially scheduling issues, changes with our schedules. I definitely think that there will potentially be some misunderstandings or missed messages or missed emails, especially when it comes to our work, our health, our daily routine, our coworkers. So be mindful that this is a period that you want to be really focusing on, communicating as clearly as possible. In some cases, going into detail, while it may feel tedious, it can actually be really beneficial and very helpful for getting the point across so we're not making any mistakes or any miscommunications. You know, in the sign of Virgo, you know, Mercury going through the sign, it can manifest as being overly critical and being a little bit of a perfectionist in communication. So you may also notice on the other end of the spectrum that other people can be correcting you, you know, they're following up going, you know, you made this mistake or this is the wrong date, and it can feel a little harsh, right? I also feel like, you know, Mercury going retrograde through Virgo is going to bring up issues specifically relating to organizing travel and organizing some of our appointments, especially health-related appointments. We might see that there's issues and delays with travel, or, you know, things that we have to cancel as a result of health-related issues. Or, you know, I was supposed to take this time off. I had this week kind of covered. I had somebody who was going to cover my responsibilities in the office, and, you know, unfortunately they got the flu, and like now I'm trying to find somebody who can kind of fill this spot for me so I can take time off. Or having to make changes that's going on with our schedule as a result of our own health issues. Maybe we've got, you know, a furry friend that needs to go and see the vet. That can be something that can happen as well. Accidents and delays can also go through Virgo, so we can see those things coming up, which can inhibit us from being able to take time off. So that is definitely in the skies. I encourage everybody to really take a good hard look at your routines, your health habits, and work-related matters. I think it's really important reevaluating and asking yourself, is this working for me? Is this the best routine? Is this healthy? Is really going to go a long way. And we want to work throughout the entire retrograde around that 3-week period to make the necessary tweaks, so that way we can feel like we are becoming more productive, right? Or having healthier habits or healthier, you know, kind of relationships even. And I'm especially curious about how some of these technological things might kind of come up, and how it involves like organizational tools or health-related apps, or information that we're getting, you know, through, you know, softwares or like third-party programs in regard to our health as well, and whether or not there's potentially some like glitches or malfunctions that can potentially come up. We know that Mercury also has associations with Gemini, so we could see it relating to also vehicles as well. It's not unusual when we see a Mercury retrograde that it's like, oh, you know, the car broke down, we have to have it fixed. Mercury represents kind of taking everything apart and, you know, seeing why there was like a glitch in the motor, or what was kind of blocked and what needed to be flushed out, or what chip burnt out that needed to be replaced in the computer. So it is possible that we might start kind of noticing where there are these issues going on with some of our gadgets, our cars, even our phones, because we're not, you know, cleaning out all of our, you know, deleted photos, or we're not going in and clearing some stuff on our hard drives, or we're not, you know, closing apps, and we're just kind of like burning through things. And I definitely feel like this may be a time where if you're going and getting something fixed, it can take longer to fix or diagnose. So just keep that in the back of your mind, okay? So I'd like to take you through some of the most important aspects that we're going to see as Mercury goes through the sign of Virgo. This is going to span all the way from August through October, and we will go day by day. So we're going to start first with July 28th, 2023. This is when Mercury first enters into the sign of Virgo. So on this particular day, something to take in mind is that we also have Mars that is hanging out in the sign. They're relatively close to each other. You're going to see that they'll follow kind of closely nearby, and then as Mercury starts to kind of slow down, it will move away from Mars. But Mars is pedal to the metal, right? It's, you know, let's get this done, let's move fast, let's get something going, and it's very linear. So it's already looking for things to perfect, to clean up, to work on, to kind of purge, remove, kind of cut, right? And I've really, I've been a fan of this transit so far. It's been really helpful for me just with getting on a routine and like really making the most out of my time and making sure that I'm kind of chugging through my to-do list. But I've also noticed, as planets have been in opposition to Pisces, that we cannot have physical health or routine or getting things done without that counterbalance, right? So Saturn in Pisces is like, You know, are you aware of the effects of what's going on around you spiritually? Or, you know, how is your health? Are you taking time to rest? Are you taking time away from screens? Things like that have been kind of coming up for me. I don't know if they've been coming up for you. And the effects also of the collective and how collective energies can affect us physically. So interesting dynamic, just something to keep in mind that as Mercury is moving closely nearby with Mars, we are going to feel like we need to hurry up and get something done, or quickly talk through something, or quickly sign something. But oppositions to Pisces is where sometimes it's not, these things that we feel like we must get done are not really resonating with the spirit, or we are kind of questioning if we're just going through the motions and not paying attention to our feelings or emotions, or just the fact that we might need more rest, right? Now, something else that we see throughout this transit is we're going to see a bit of energy that's going to be funneling into planets in Taurus. So several trines to Jupiter, which I think is like the chef's kiss of this entire transit. It does indicate that we can have better communication, healthier habits. We can be more so aware. We can be learning something new, expanding our resources, learning more about food. Also coming up a lot for me, there's been so much stuff that I've been like learning about in terms of herbal remedies, making a lot of changes in terms of the food that I'm eating, trying to kind of move away from plastic, trying to use more metal and glass, and the effects that it actually has on the body, like hormonally. That's something I've been learning a lot about. And also just the learning a lot more about where food is coming from, and the importance of trying to, you know, eat organic because of all of the stuff that's in the food and like GMOs. Whether you believe in that or not, you know, definitely I think this is something that's going to come up a lot. Somebody who I started listening to, who I found really, really interesting, is a doctor. I'm trying to remember her name. I want to say it's Dr. Barbara O'Neill, O''Neil. She's Australian. But just listening to her talk a lot about, you know, natural remedies and healing for the body, and like, you know, working with like castor oil and dietary changes to be able to clean up the diet, and also, you know, better kind of balance out hormonal health, which I think is so important in the midst of this Venus retrograde. If that's something that interests you, definitely check her stuff out. She's got some stuff on YouTube. But I could see with Mercury trine Jupiter, learning more about food and balance, and also if you guys need help learning more about financial health, learning more about physical health, dietary health. These are all things that I think are going to come out through this transit collectively. Obviously, I know it's going to be different for everybody. And then at the tail end of the transit, we will see a trine to Uranus, which is going to be like exciting, and I think sudden changes and inspiration and ideas. And then an opposition to Neptune, which we all know is a little cloudy and confusing. I'm not going to say Mercury is not important. It is. You know, obviously the retrograde is going to, you know, really make all of us kind of stop, slow down, and reevaluate something. But it is not directly connected to the nodes right now. But we will see a number of outer planet aspects: trine to Pluto, opposition to Saturn, opposition to Neptune, trine to Jupiter, trine to Uranus. You know, that's a lot of aspects that it's going to be making throughout the retrograde. So that tells me that collectively everybody is going to be feeling the effects of this pretty strongly. And I think there is more positive in this transit than there is challenges. So don't listen to all like the pop astrology hype. Oh my God, you know, Mercury's going retrograde. What are you going to do? Just work with it and look for the Jupiter trines to be the days where you're actually kind of get the golden sprinkles from Mercury. All right, so we start obviously with the 28th. This is the day that Mercury moves into this sign, and we're going to move to August 9th. So on the 9th, we are going to see the first big aspect that's going to be taking place, and that will be the, excuse me, I'm missing one. Hello, I can't miss Saturn. I just looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to get slapped. All right, so we've got an opposition to Saturn. Apologies. August 1st, Mercury opposed Saturn. So remember how we did the video where I talked about the Mars opposition and how everybody felt limited, we wanted to do something, and then we felt kind of like we were being held back? Similar energy. You know, Mercury obviously wants to share, wants to communicate, wants to tap in, wants to send the email. Saturn says, no, slow down, or not yet, or, you know, now is not the time. I personally feel like this is a day where we may be getting some harsh criticism. This is also a day where we might kind of feel like our schedule is thrown off a bit. We're not in the shadow yet, but it does seem to me like there is going to be some kind of limitation. To me, it's almost like Mercury says, well, but here's the details. And Saturn says, that doesn't matter. I don't want to see what information you have. Like, the answer is no. And likely the no that we're getting, because Saturn is retrograde and it's in a sign that is, you know, Neptunian based. It's also mutable. We're going to feel like either energetically, spiritually blocked. We may also feel like we're trying to tap in with divination, trying to read our tarot cards, looking at our horoscope or astrology, and we're like, what gives? Like, what the heck? Definitely those who are going to feel this a little bit more strongly will be mercurial charts. So, you know, Virgos and Geminis, you guys are going to feel that Saturn opposition. And it is significant because it is going to be relating to one of your angular houses. So stay tuned to the end. I'll tell you guys for all the 12 signs how this is going to play out for y'all. But this is the day that I would say, maybe not have the meeting, right? Maybe not ask for permission for something. Maybe hold off on having the serious conversation, because Mercury in Virgo wants to be logical. It wants to reason. And Saturn in Pisces says, I'm not ready to take responsibility. It's retrograde. I'm not ready to talk about it. I'm not ready to come out with, you know, my reasoning. Just the answer is no. So try to skip some of the more serious business, financial, relationship conversations on this day. And because this is the first real aspect Mercury is going to be having in this sign, it makes me feel like it's kicking off the transit with, you cannot do this, you know, or this is not, doesn't matter what routine you're going through, you're not physically, emotionally, or spiritually feeling better in this area. So Mercury is going to do its retrograde dance, trying to figure out, well, how can I have this breakthrough? Thankfully, that is the only opposition between Mercury and Saturn we are going to see during this retrograde. So that's positive. All right, so then we move to the 9th. And on the 9th, we are going to see Mercury then trine Jupiter. And that'll be around 14 degrees right here. Okay, so trines are harmonious aspects. It represents free-flowing energy. And like I said, you know, Mercury and Mars are moving closely. So it kind of feels like the mind is on fire. And we're starting to also kind of pick up Mars trine Uranus. So the pace is kind of quickening, even though we're already in the shadow. When Mercury links up with Jupiter, it does allow us to tap into growth, tap into learning, tapping into the opportunity for, you know, grounding things out. There can be good news that's coming. We can feel very optimistic about something that is setting up. In the back of my mind, I'm also thinking about the fact that the Venus Cazimi is coming. And even though this has nothing really to do with the transit, I know that this is going to be a period of time, the first half of August, where people are getting in alignment with how to be more creative, how to have more fun. We've got a lot of strengths in the skies, guys. We have Mercury in its ruling sign. We have the Sun in its ruling sign. We're going to have Neptune in its ruling sign. A lot of, you know, planets are going to be kind of playing their tune in the astrological jam band in the sky. So these are really strong energies. So when we have Mercury in its ruling sign, even in shadow, the trine to Jupiter is like, yes, we can grow our wealth. Yes, we can kind of find healthier ways forward. Maybe that person that you've been seeking to kind of help you remedy a situation is just showing up. Obviously at 14 degrees, that is a Taurus related degree. So it may cost something, right? Good advice is not always free to come by. So you may have to pay to go and see the specialist, or you may spend a little bit more money to get the organic food. You may see the value in investing in supplements or, you know, a new health routine. But with that being said, it may also yield some pretty positive results. So teachers, gurus, mentors kind of show up with Jupiter aspects. I would look for that because to me, it looks like the opportunities are presenting themselves. And as you go through the retrograde in the Virgo area of your chart, you're going to see several trines to Jupiter, which tells me that you only grow more, you learn more, you get better grounded throughout the whole process. All right, so then we're going to have on the September 4th. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit. Actually, not even then. It's going to be retrograde. Yeah. So the retrograde is going to start right around here, around the 23rd. Okay, so that's when Mercury starts its retrograde. And obviously is starting to see the separation from Mars. And then Mercury is going to come back into a trine with Jupiter, and this will be on September the 6th. Actually, a little bit earlier, it looks like, right around here. September 4th. There we go. So September 4th, this will be the second Jupiter trine. What I like about this trine is that the moon is going to be there and the moon's exalted in Taurus. So you want to make a note of September 4th, okay? Because this is the second one. So it's like, oh, the good news is kind of coming back. Yes, Jupiter is retrograde, but still when the moon aligns with Jupiter in its exaltation, there is going to be some positive gain. And then the trine that you're going to be seeing both to Mercury as well as the sun is when I kind of feel like you're like, oh, this thing that I've changed, it's working. I'm actually feeling like it's making a shift. There's an improvement in my schedule at work with coworkers, you know, kind of Virgo related themes. So that's the day where I think that things are going to start to click. And then we're going to see the Cazimi point, which looks like it's going to happen right around 13 degrees. There we go. And that'll be on the 6th. This is also known as like the midpoint to the retrograde. So as Mercury is retrograde, it comes into a superior conjunction with the sun. Typically when planets are within 10 degrees of the sun, it's combust. So it kind of acts kind of like fried, like it can be like overwhelmed. But this particular makes me feel like it's actually about receiving some important information. Now, what's interesting is this is also right as Venus has just gone direct only a few days earlier. And Venus is very much connected to the sun. So now that the Venus retrograde is over, the Sun-Mercury conjunction can be that aha moment that's like, oh, this is what this was all about. You know, somehow happiness or joy or creativity or love actually has a huge impact on how much I'm able to get done, my daily routine, the kind of work that I'm doing, how I'm of service to the world. And I do think that that is going to be a really important day for some kind of like awareness. It's still within about a 2-degree orb of a trine from Jupiter. So also a really good day on tap, because I do feel like this is when we start to kind of feel things open up and go like, okay, you know, it took a little bit of work, or, you know, getting into the grind of having a new habit or getting up earlier in the morning, but like I'm actually feeling better. The only annoying thing about this particular day is that you are going to see that the moon is in Gemini. So you're going to see some squares between the moon and this Cazimi, but you still want to lean into Taurus. I would say throughout this entire transit, to be honest with you, because some of the most positive aspects is going to be the trines to Taurus, is like that's where you actually really want to focus, because we're still by sign in opposition to Saturn and Neptune. And also you will see in conjuncts and quincunxes to Chiron, which is about healing, healing the self, the North Node, which is about the direction of the self. Naturally, this is why I like looking at it with an Aries rising chart, is all of this energy to Aries is 6th house. So it is saying like, in order to heal the body, in order for us to heal ourselves, we have to become mindful of our habits, our daily routine, what we're eating, how often we're getting rest, you know, the environment that we're working in, whether or not our car is organized, our homes are organized, whether or not we're feeling like we're actually making the time to go and get the things done that we need to get done. This is about also being of service to other people. I think we're going to hear a lot about the service industry, okay? The trines to both Jupiter as well as Uranus. A lot of people don't realize a lot of this is going to be about people who grow our food, people who deliver our food, people who are selling our food and resources, and whether or not that is slowing down, right? All summer long, Venus square Uranus is going to be issues that we're going to be seeing with unions. And it doesn't matter if it's going to be these Hollywood, you know, strikes that are going on, also Teamsters that are going to potentially, I think, strike. And we're also going to be seeing issues with shipping and receiving, especially of food, like grains and breads and other produce and things of that nature. You know, I had somebody sent me the other day a video that was like, people who have been delivering food, truck drivers and stuff for various companies, finding out that the company is about to go belly up and go under, finding out that they're not going to get their pension that they've been working hard for like the last like decade or more, which is horrible. But now starting to see where, because some of this stuff is coming out, certain distributors are talking about potentially like striking, okay? And if that stuff happens, how do you guys think products are going to be able to get to your local markets or, you know, Costco or what have you? We're going to see shortages and limitations, and it's going to be because of that slowdown of that particular business, which in turn is going to affect other businesses connected to Virgo, like the service industry, restaurants, hotels, other places, bars even. I mean, we might see all kinds of stuff that's going to slow down because certain things are going to be out, so then you can't sell it. And if you do get it, it's going to be at an increased cost. So it's a really great time to start learning how to meal plan, just in general, right? Not just to save time, but also because you may find that it is healthier, right? Trines to Jupiter. You may find that it is more cost effective. You may also find that it is a stress reliever and giving you like a little bit of like a break. Yeah, some of you guys might be trying to figure out, well, how do I find the time and where are the recipes and this, that, and the other. But thus the point of the retrograde is to go and do your due diligence to kind of figure it out. And if you don't know how to, you'll be able to find somebody who can kind of help you connect the dots. All right, so after the 6th, where this is the midpoint, or I guess, yeah, of the Mercury retrograde, look for the aha moments, the epiphanies, especially in this particular sign, because it's going to be like, okay, like now I know what I need to do. So if you haven't figured out where the Mercury retrograde is affecting you, you're probably going to know by about the 6th. Then this is going to be taken to the 25th of September. Oh, I take that back. So we're going to go direct at 8 degrees. So it looks like right around the 15th, Mercury will go direct. On the 25th, we're going to see the 3rd Mercury trine to Jupiter. This is why I keep telling everybody this is a really good retrograde, because thankfully the retrograde Mercury is not in a direct opposition to Saturn, nor is in a direct opposition to Neptune. It's in that sweet spot that's in between. Yeah, it's annoying. Okay. Yes, you're going to see that it's going to in conjunct Chiron. But I'm going to tell everybody that some of the personal issues, personal wounds, health problems, healing crisis things that come up are quite honestly due to a lack of our willingness to take care of business. You know, if you're complaining because you're running late, because you couldn't find something, you know, could that something have been better organized? If you are finding that you're struggling and dealing with something health-wise, have you done your due diligence to be checking in with, you know, your general care team? Retrogrades bring things up that are annoying because we're meant to be kind of checking back in and kind of balancing things out. So this is the 3rd Jupiter-Uranus trine, Mercury-Jupiter trine that you're going to see. There will only be one trine to Uranus, and that's going to come down the road. And with the Mercury-Jupiter trine, we see so many opportunities for manifesting growth, learning, and opportunity. And then finally, on the 30th, we will see Mercury connect and make that trine to Uranus right here. And that's an interesting transit because, you know, the fact that it stopped short of trining Uranus, it stopped short of opposing Neptune. This is a favorable aspect. It encourages you to be a little bit more, you know, mentally agile, inventive thinking, you know, willingness to embrace change comes up with Mercury trine Uranus. Communication and intellectual pursuits flow more smoothly. People may feel more inspired and be more likely to explore like innovative ideas. So I feel like I like the Mercury retrograde for people who are like, let me try new habits. Like, let me set up the website. Like, let me organize the schedule. And then you really adopt and you fully make that change probably somewhere closer to September the 30th. And then we're going to start to see Mercury come into an in conjunct with the North Node. So that looks like that's going to be happening around the 1st of October. For me, you know, kind of an annoying aspect because it's like, okay, is that resonating with me, right? Something might not feel like it's sitting right. There can be conflicting ideas. In the background, while the in conjunct is happening, we are also starting to feel Mercury coming into opposition with Neptune. So that's why you gotta wanna be careful with this particular retrograde, because once you start getting into the in conjunct and the Neptune opposition, so around the beginning of October, those who don't do the work during the Mercury retrograde, you're gonna find that as soon as this hits at the beginning of October, you're gonna go, oh, now this is really affecting me because I didn't deal with this thing. And then it's going to oppose Neptune and you're going to be like, why didn't I do it sooner? Why didn't I see that? I should have known. Why didn't anybody tell me, right? So you want to work with this Mercury retrograde. Big time. And then on the 2nd of October, we're going to see Mercury oppose Neptune, which we know, right? It's hazy, unclear communication. It can be about deception. It can be about mistruths. It can also be about dishonesty, lack of wanting to see, right? I have found that a lot of the Neptune oppositions, generally, from what I've observed from clients, and with me too, there's been a lot of like, oh, I don't want to see that. And that's actually creating part of the problem, is the unwillingness to acknowledge facts, truth, right? Jupiter is truth. So as Jupiter and Mercury trine several times, there will be opportunity for truth, physical proof. Not just skewed numbers and this, that, and the other. It's going to be like, no, this is the evidence, physical. And I think Jupiter trine Taurus is going to be, or Mercury trine Jupiter and Taurus is going to be, we have the samples, you know, we have the physical effects on the body. We have the effects that it's had on food, right? And I think we're going to hear more about that. I do believe that some people may reject what they're hearing. I hope that, especially around the 2nd of October, people are wanting to be in the truth. They want to be grounded in reality, especially as the moon is going to connect with Jupiter and Uranus, and it's going to trine Mercury. And you'll also see the moon keep moving through this sign, and it's going to trine Pluto. So on the 2nd of October, there is an opportunity to be like, this thing happened, this is what's going on, this is how it's affecting our physical experience. Taurus is the food in our mouths, the money in the bank, the physical body, the state of the earth, right? And the effects that that's having on all of us, what we're consuming, what we're spending, and also just a really, really powerful earth trine to hopefully offset and counterbalance this kind of deceptive Mercury-Neptune square, which we'll also see further as the moon goes into Gemini just days later. This is not the day that you want to sign, you know, that you want to sign the contract. This is also not the day that you want to be going and getting the medical or the test results, because it may not be clear. Or you're going to be told, okay, well, you know, it's best to just take the medication, or, you know, don't worry about this, it's not an issue. And you're going to realize, like, actually there is something that's kind of going on here. Are you sure? So you want to ask questions. This whole Mercury retrograde, you want to be acknowledging the things that maybe you haven't been paying attention to. Allow yourself to become aware of it and actually do something about things. and be really exercising critical thinking. Because I feel like this is going to be another situation with Mercury opposed Neptune, that there is going to be an opportunity for things to be swept under the rug, and it's a lot of like, nothing to see here, kind of like smoke and mirrors, right? Now, thankfully, by this point in time, you know, Mars will have already opposed Neptune, the Sun will have already opposed Neptune. So I do feel confident that it's just a matter of other, what may feel like inconvenient truths that are starting to kind of unfold, especially as we start to see Mercury picking up a trine to Pluto. And that'll be the last aspect that Mercury is going to make as it goes through, obviously, the sign of Virgo. And it'll start picking up at a 27, which is at a Gemini degree. So it's in a mercurial degree. Looks like we're going to catch that maybe like right on the tail end of that lunar transit. Yeah. So I'm looking at like the evening of the 2nd. And then what's going to happen is once we start to see the moon go into Gemini, we're going to start to lose the Mercury trine Pluto. And if you're catching some of this stuff closer to like October 4th in the evening, by the time the moon's coming into Gemini and it's opposing, it's going to be harder to be able to kind of get facts and figures and information. Obviously, the Mercury trine Pluto, I like that aspect. It's about digging deep, powerful words, powerful communication, intense probing. That might be something else that we're hearing, especially as Mercury is, picking up a trine to Pluto. I think it's going to be information revolving around oversight, control, things involving, surveillance, monitoring of information, flagging of information, especially by, the government and, big tech or media companies, and where information has potentially been withheld about what's going on with food or the potential use of natural remedies, or, whether or not people were given the right to discuss natural immunity. I think that's naturally going to be something that's going to come up during these particular transits, and why certain information on social platforms were censored, and if it's something or somehow connected to oversight and control, but also money, right? Who was paying people to, keep quiet, or who was paying certain people to promote certain medications and medical, injections. As much as I hate to say that, I wonder if we're going to be hearing more about this. Once we get to the 4th, Mercury is going to go into Libra, so that will be the completion of this particular transit. And when we've got Mercury in Libra and Sun in Libra and Mars in Libra, it's going to be a lot of air energy. We're going to be, coming into some of the transits that are going to be leading up to, obviously, the eclipses that will be taking place in mid and the second half of October. And when we're seeing planets coming into conjunction with the South Node, it's a loss or a letting go of something and falling out of, step with alliances that we might have or relationships that we might have. Which I think is going to be pretty significant, because we're going to realize that in some cases we've trusted partners, individuals, what have you, with the inconjuncts to Neptune and also Saturn. And we're going to kind of realize like, oh, okay, this thing, it has not been working. It has not been a two-way street. Now I got to kind of cut ties. Anyway, we'll talk about that more as we're getting to October. But when a planet is retrograde, especially like Mercury, Mars, Venus, it'll stay in that sign much longer. So quite a bit of time that we're going to have Mercury that's going to be in Virgo. Just the fact that it's in its ruling sign, I think, is positive. I love the 3 trines to Jupiter, so make the most of those dates when you're seeing those trines as a way to be able to kind of remedy something. I do know that the Mercury retrograde will be going on when we have the new moon that will be in Virgo as well. In fact, Mercury will be stationing. So obviously, if we have a new moon, we look at the ruler and we kind of see what's going on with the ruler. Stationing Mercury means that something is getting ready to be revealed. And so, I see the pros and the cons of this. Probably the most positive aspect is that there's going to be something really powerful that's being seeded during this retrograde especially with Mercury right behind the new moon in this case. So it talks about something that has to happen on the ethers, or something that's happening spiritually or in meditation or in private, or it's some prayer or intention that is being set that's getting ready to kind of unfold. I, for one, am going to be waiting until Mercury makes its third trine to Jupiter before I'm really, I guess, like committing more permanently to any, physical changes. So that's just me. You can wait until the retrograde itself is over. And yes, I know that Jupiter will be retrograde, but I'm actually kind of really digging right around here. Maybe picking up like a trine from the moon. So as the moon's going through Capricorn, the evening of September 23rd, 2023, we are going to see that we'll have a trine to Mercury, to Jupiter. And Venus will be direct at this point. Mercury will be direct at this point. And it looks like this is going to be right around the time of the fall equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere. So in my mind, I'm really holding off on making any significant tweaks until right about this date. So you might want to make a note of the 23rd of September. Granted, like I said, you're not going to see the shadow period end until Mercury hits about 22 degrees. So once we're getting to like the 30th, then it's going to get a little bit easier. But I am not a fan. I am not a fan of this opposition. And there is very likely for many people who were not believing some of the things that were coming out in September. They were not wanting to admit, or they didn't want to acknowledge that some problem was brewing, or some issues were coming with layoffs or health problems, or issues relating to, people, working or going back to work in some way. Will go, oh my gosh, I didn't see it. And then it's going to change. So I know that sounds a little ominous. I've said for a long time that, as we watch this Venus retrograde play out in Leo, there is going to be so many issues with unions and so much changing in the heart space and with individuals creatively that's really impacting their self-esteem, their resources, right? It's also going to be impacting our relationships because Venus rules relationships. I do feel like this is going to also be a lot of information coming out about, big business and companies and their involvement with some of the things that are actually going on right now in the world, where we're seeing a lot of like distress and like a lot of problems. I try to kind of keep my opinions like on the side because I don't want to push certain viewers away, and I'm not here to kind of like really lecture people. But for me, I think so much of like the Venus retrograde is about finally the truth being unveiled about the agenda with certain companies, and where maybe they're complying on an international level with an agenda to promote certain ideas out in society. I'll just leave it at that. And I just want to keep reminding people that so much about Jupiter and Uranus is where the masses have the ability collectively to make change with our resources and our values. You can choose where you want to bank. You can choose what you want to buy. You can choose what brands you want to support or not support. I'm super proud of that. I maybe a little outspoken, but it's now coming into August. I haven't shopped at Target since the end of 2022, so it's been about 8 months. Long before the fiasco that's been going on with the stuff recently, I made the conscious decision the end of last year. I'm not shopping at Target. I'm not shopping at Walmart. It's a personal preference because I don't align with some of their values. Obviously, some people live in places where that's all you have. A couple other companies on my chopping block, definitely going to be looking like it's going to be Amazon, and a couple other brands that I just personally refuse to support. And maybe it's just me and I'm one person, but if I don't feel like I align with a company's values, then they're not going to get my money. And my money is going to be reallocated towards, other companies that might be smaller businesses. I'm trying to be better about buying stuff on Etsy. I'm trying to be better about buying stuff from small businesses. and also buying local, because I do see the importance of being able to support, you know, local businesses and local communities. So this may come up for some people actually with the Mercury retrograde and the Venus retrograde. Let me know, is that something that you're doing? Are you feeling that as well? Obviously, convenience is a big factor for a lot of people. Price is a big factor for a lot of people. I understand that, but also we play a role in determining how much power they have. And we do that by continuing to support the companies that are kind of diminishing all the little guys. So making small changes, even if it's just, you know, once a week you're buying something local versus buying something for a larger company, it's going to make a huge difference. All right, so let's now get into where this is going to be taking place for each and every one of the 12 signs. As a reminder, I am a Western astrologer. I'm going to focus on the whole signs for all of you guys. And what else? Yeah, I'm going to do an actual retrograde video as we get closer, because it's going to be a little ways. So I'm going to save the Sabian symbols and stuff for that. You're going to hear more about this in my horoscopes, so just keep in mind. But if you have the Sabian symbol book and you guys want to read that, the retrograde is going to start at 21, so you want to read 22, and it's going to go direct at, I believe, 8 degrees. So you're going to want to read 9 degrees, or watch the video that I'm going to have on this down the road. So let's go ahead and look at this for the 12 rising signs. You can listen for obviously about 8 to 21 degrees of Virgo. So if you're a Placidus user, you may want to listen to 2 different signs. And you can listen to your progress chart if you want as well. Just remember, if you are a Gemini or a Virgo rising, you're going to be feeling this more strongly, or if you have any personal planets in Virgo within those degrees. All right, so this is going to be for Aries and Aries rising. The Mercury in Virgo transit will be taking place in your 6th house, which deals with your daily routine, your health. It does deal with your office space. It deals with your habits, your pets, coworkers. Mercury rules this house as well as your 3rd house. So to me, it seems like a lot of like organizing things regarding travel, organizing things regarding communication, maybe with relatives, like, you know, siblings or cousins. It can also be scheduling and things revolving around maintenance pertaining to gadgets as well as cars or vehicles, okay? So the Mercury retrograde itself will be taking place completely in this particular house. So much of the trines to Taurus in your 2nd house really speak to, are you willing to invest the resources, maybe the time, maybe yourself into, you know, like getting these things organized. If you need to fix a car, if you need to fix a gadget, if you need to talk to a healthcare professional, likely it's possible, but I also feel like it might cost you, and you might kind of wrestle and go back and forth with, well, is it worth, you know, spending the time or the money, you know, talking to a professional? I say yes, I definitely think that it's a good move. I would definitely do that. It might help you in the long run, you know, prevent what could potentially be like a bigger issue with one of these gadgets. You might find that it's like smarter to get it fixed than to replace it altogether. So rather than throwing something away, I would try to see if you can actually like remedy that and get something fixed. Scheduling and traveling issues can happen, and likely it may be out of your control because of an issue that might be either going on with a pet or a family member, or changes going on at work or with your schedule. That is actually very likely. And for my Aries risings, you know, you have a retrograde in your 6th, and now the North Node is in your 1st. So if you're very focused on your health and your body and your appearance right now, if you're wanting to kind of get more comfortable in your skin, this is a really good retrograde to be like, I'm cleaning out the closets and the cupboards. I'm going to come up with a plan. I'm going to get organized for, you know, how I'm going to eat, or getting back to the gym, or being able to kind of meet with a trainer, especially because Mercury is moving so closely with Mars, which is your ruling planet. If not, it can be organizing your workspace. It can also be just feeling like you're being more productive in general. And I promise you, between the trines to Jupiter as well as Pluto in your 10th house, you're going to feel more productive by the end of this transit. Now, can there be issues with work? Yes, you can have a change in your schedule, you can change jobs, you can be in the process of trying to get back into work, or if you're having some health-related issues, you may have to take a day or so to kind of recover. These things are possible. The card that I get for you is the Empress, which I like. I feel like this is about you learning to find peace and balance and nurturing and taking better care of yourself. I say that because Mercury is so close to Mars. This also has aspects relating to Venus, okay? And so we're not quite seeing it. We're not quite seeing Mars and Venus in a sextile quite yet. But down the road, as we start seeing Mars coming into Libra, I do think that you're going to see where putting more focus and attention on self-care and taking care of yourself and loving yourself is part of this. You may feel kind of like overwhelmed with the amount of work that it's going to take for you to be feeling more productive or back on track. But sometimes loving yourself is, willing to do the necessary work possible. Women who heal can help. They can come in and they can help take care of you. They can kind of help guide you. So sometimes healers, doctors, trainers kind of pop in through transits through the 6th house. I would look for this because likely they're going to be a big part of your healing journey, okay? Good luck, Aries and Aries rising. I hope it's a good one for you. We have Taurus and Taurus rising. You will be experiencing a Mercury transit in Virgo through your 5th house, where eventually it will retrograde, okay? So Mercury is connected to Virgo naturally and your 5th house, where it's about communicating, expressing yourself creatively. It can be about creative work. It can be about your love life, dating, children. Hobbies can come through the 5th house. So sometimes when we have a Mercury retrograde in the 5th, we are re-evaluating, what do I love? What do I want to spend time doing? How can I return to a creative project? What was that hobby I used to participate in that I liked? And Mercury also has connections to your 2nd house of money and resources and possessions. So I notice Mars is in this house. I do feel like this can be about some changes maybe that are going on, maybe with you and a partner, and trying to find ways to have more fun in an active manner. It can be about making more of an effort to connect in, romance. So if you're in a relationship, finding ways to have fun and what you're willing to invest in terms of having fun. I also feel like a retrograde here can bring back past lovers or romantic connections. So if you're single, that can happen. And it can be a time where you're hearing, from the past or thinking about getting back into dating. So if you've been taking a bit of a break, that can be coming up here as well. Perhaps maybe part of what's going on also is you're just reevaluating your resources, right? The 5th house is speculation. So if you're somebody who likes to gamble or maybe invest, I would be kind of cautious with some of these oppositions because it may not play out as well as you would like it to. But nevertheless, the trines actually happening to Jupiter and Uranus in your sign are quite powerful. Mercury going through Virgo is in a sister sign. So the 1st, 5th, and 9th houses, where you're going to see some of these earth trines are happening in what are typically fire houses. So it's about spirit, it's about, action and having fun and energy. So you might also be reevaluating with some of the trines to Jupiter. Am I open for a change and a transformation? Because Jupiter rules your 8th house. Am I open to possibly making a change, with my appearance, with my status, with my body that can be going on? I have seen some transits with a Mercury retrograde here where people are reevaluating, do I want to have a kid? Am I pregnant? That can be happening here as well. And then finally on the tail end of the transit, you'll see a trine to Pluto. So to me, it seems like there's a bit of a back and forth process going on where you're trying to figure out, how can I be more creative? How can I express myself better? What does it mean to have fun? What do I love? And a lot of needing to check in with yourself throughout this transit. Make more time for creative projects, slow down a little bit and go and maybe pick up either a hobby or complete something that you started kind of painting or creating or working on in the past. And likely you may find that it brings you some sense of happiness. Also, if you're planning on traveling, because I'm looking at that trine to Pluto, you know, planning a trip, especially somewhere foreign, or if you're planning on taking courses for something creative, you need to spend a little bit more extra time planning. But if you're planning like a romantic getaway or going somewhere else, do your due diligence to do your research before actually reserving anything, okay? So the card that I got for you is the Four of Cups. I'd be lying if I said I'm not surprised by this, because I do feel like there is a lot of being like, I'm not having any fun, you know, nothing is really, you know, really making me feel excited. I'm not really feeling particularly, yeah, just like thrilled about anything right now. And that can definitely happen when we have a retrograde, you know, in the 5th house. I mean, there can be a sense of like trying to figure out where the love is. So for this card to be coming up, it makes me feel inclined to tell you it's less about complaining about the problem, more about trying to find a solution. If you're not feeling fulfilled, it's okay. What are you going to do about it? Rather than kind of huffing and puffing and being like, nothing is really going my way. The 5th house is the love that you give yourself, right? So a lot of this can be about bringing the attention back to yourself and not getting totally fixated on, well, they didn't make plans with me, they didn't call me back, you know, I'm not getting the attention that I need, or I'm not quite getting, you know, the fulfillment that I used to, you know, in a relationship or what have you. It's about finding fun things that you can do on your own and not getting stuck in this state of either boredom or kind of feeling like you're not having any excitement. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You are going to be experiencing Mercury transit throughout your natal 4th house of home, family, your roots, the past, anything that deals also with real estate. Obviously, this is important for you, Gemini, because Mercury rules your chart. So wherever Mercury goes, it's kind of like a little archetype of you. As Mercury is moving into your 4th house, what you have working in your favor is it's in its home sign. Yes, it's in an angular house, so you are going to feel squares to your ascendant, sun or moon. And you will also feel some oppositions to your 10th house. You want to watch when the moon goes through Sag. That's probably when you're going to have some more challenges than usual, because you will see a grand mutable cross set up, which is going to kind of really light your chart up. But for right now, I would say, like, you know, Mercury retrograde can quite literally be you going back, visiting family you haven't seen in a while, cleaning out closets. It can also be about you remedying a home issue. Mars is going through there, so I could see some conflict maybe where you're having some challenges like getting along with people at home. There can be a sense of you getting kind of flustered because there's lots of things that are being worked on, or loud noises or distractions at home, or maybe in the neighborhood. I would encourage you to actually like find a list of things that you need to kind of work on, because Mars is connected to your 6th, and then you've got Mercury going retrograde, where if you've been meaning to, you know, fix a doorknob, or if you've been meaning to clean out a closet, do it. Be mindful that there can be like broken electronics that can kind of come up as a result of, I think, something like falling or breaking, televisions, you know, other electrical things, and things that may specifically be near or around also the kitchen. Things I wouldn't do during this retrograde. I wouldn't buy a house. I wouldn't sign a lease. I would be really mindful of people coming and moving into a space or moving out. Family coming to visit as well. Some of these things are a little unavoidable, obviously, because you're going to have such a loaded 4th house. But I'm looking for like the trines to Jupiter and Uranus, which tells me like you're going to have some kind of support or security in a private space. So maybe zenning out a bedroom, you know, making sure that it's like really comfortable. So if you feel like you got some extra people kind of staying and visiting you, or maybe you're going to be like, you know, staying with relatives, you have some kind of like escape, right? Hopefully some kind of escape in nature is possible for you. Or if you know that you need to be renovating a home, or there's something that's going on, maybe you're like, I'm going to get out of the house for a little bit. You know, retrograde can be doing something different. So rather than staying, you can leave. And, you know, for you, it's not that this is not really active. It is, because Mercury rules your chart, but you're going to see trines taking place in what are typically water houses. So this is more about how you're feeling emotionally, psychically, or intuitively about some of these changes. Some Geminis might look around and go, oh, I have a feeling I'm going to hear from that relative, or I have a feeling we're going to have an issue with the landlord, and you're like, ugh. And it may actually pop up. That is very possible, especially issues either with relatives or neighbors, because you've had a Venus retrograde in your third house. So there's already been an issue maybe communicating with a sibling, or you've had a problem with a neighbor, or you've been waiting for some kind of document to come from like a landlord, or you've been waiting to kind of sign a lease. And then you're going to have the Sun and Mercury come into conjunction. And so that'll be an important time to watch, because likely that's when maybe you're going to make a decision about where you're living, if it's time to move. Maybe you're talking it over with another member of your family. And please wait to making decisions until at least after the Saturn opposition, but be mindful that at the end of the transit, you will also see Mercury oppose Neptune, which means by the time you're having to make a change in your living situation towards the end of the transit, you're going to go, oh, well, you know, because I didn't do it earlier, now I got to take a day off work, or, you know, now there's going to be an issue with my boss because I'm having to kind of really focus on being at home. You get stretched a little thin when you have this opposition, because there's so much action on the home front that it's almost as if it's taking away from work responsibilities or your career out in the world. And like, this is a dynamic with planets in both of these houses where you have to do a little bit of both. And obviously it's going to square you. So it's having you kind of feel like you're in the middle. But the good news is you're a Gemini. You can multitask, you can communicate, and work wonders with people, as long as you are kind of striking up a deal or trying to find a solution, right? Mercury in Virgo is all about finding a solution. So it might be about you better organizing or communicating with your family or your roommates, so that way you're not the one who's solely in charge. All right, so we have for you the Emperor, and I feel like this can be about a parent, actually. This can be about a father figure. This can be about you as a parent. This can be about a standoff maybe with a boss. I think of, like, you know, the fourth house, it can be about one of your dominant parents, and then the opposition to Saturn, which is like issues that you're having at work. So you might feel like you're being torn between both. This is also the energy of Mars, and it can be about where you're taking action. So remember I said Mars is in your fourth house, where it's like, okay, a very can-do attitude. What can I get done now? How can I better kind of organize things to make things more smoothly, so I'm not kind of stuck doing all of this stuff 24/7. Create solutions at home, right? Label things, organize, purge, get rid of stuff. Find ways to better organize things so your space is a little bit more functional, so that way you're not feeling like you're having some of the issues that you're having, and you can get more work done. Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You will be experiencing Mercury's transit through your third house of Virgo. All right, so for starters, obviously Mercury is in one of its home signs, so it's going to be particularly strong. The third house is all going to be about ideas, communication. It can be about gadgets. It can be about short distance travel, and learning, okay? The positive is that this is a sign that naturally sextiles you. So the more that you're in touch with your emotions, your need, your security, the better you're going to be able to communicate information. You're going to be able to kind of travel and like make pivots if necessary. Now, Mercury doesn't just rule your third house, it also rules your 12th house of secrets, what's hidden, what's subconscious. It's about sleep, it's about dreams, and self-undoing, all right? So to see Mercury in your third house, very close to Mars, it makes me feel like you're working on websites, you're sending emails, you're having meetings, you are focusing a lot on work and getting the point across and being productive and being assertive. Perhaps you're trying to find ways to be able to work and travel. Perhaps you're planning or anticipating that you're going to launch a website, or maybe you're going to move. Mars going through this part of the sky can be about negotiating contracts and like really getting the point across in terms of business negotiations. Obviously, a retrograde in the third house like this is not the best time to sign agreements. It's not the best time to buy a vehicle. It's not the best time to sign a lease or to move. Although you may be considering or contemplating these things, especially as we're getting ready to see Mars coming into your whole sign fourth house, and we will also see eclipses here in the fall. So very likely for many Cancer risings, there's home changes, family changes, moves on the horizon, changes going on with your physical space. But you might be getting wind of this now. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm good where I'm at, it's probably going to be a lot of communicating with neighbors or maybe communicating with siblings about a family matter. My advice is to work with the trines. You know, you're going to have a number of trines to Jupiter in your 11th house, which means if you're having a difficult time with the car and getting around, a friend might give you a ride. If you're really trying to get on top of your goals and manifest more of these things into reality, write them down, speak them out loud, journal regularly, walk and, recite your mantras. Getting active and moving around a little bit can really help you bring those ideas to fruition. Be careful with your communication. That's the one thing that I would say. There can be a lot of miscommunication in this part of your chart. And the third house is kind of like what we have learned. It's something that's more easy to kind of get across. The oppositions to Saturn and Neptune can feel more challenging. So some of you guys are like, oh, I am going back to school. I need to get a laptop. Or, I am selling my vehicle because I am, potentially going to be moving abroad or going to college and I'm not going to necessarily need to drive. So you might notice that there is a slowing effect of buying or selling vehicles. If you must, buy gadgets, I really recommend keeping your receipts, because I personally would not be buying gadgets under this transit with this particular chart, because I think you're going to have some issues. There's also going to potentially be some issues with mail and receiving information and stuff that might go missing, especially as it opposes Neptune. So if you're trying to buy things internationally, these packages might have a delay or they might vanish. The card that I have for you is the Devil, which is Saturn. Saturn's in your 9th house. I wonder if this is like some communication breakdown. I wonder if there is some challenges revolving around what you know versus what you believe in. And you might be realizing that something's changing about what you thought you knew. And it's kind of better adapting to your new beliefs and your philosophy. But this is about limitation. This is about fear, okay? I could see like motor brain going on with Mercury and Mars in your 3rd house. I could definitely see this being connected to business as well. And I know a number of Cancer risings that are like, with these eclipses in your 10th house, getting ready to launch new businesses and things of that nature. Personally, not the best time. Even though, yes, Mars is coming into a trine with Pluto, my issue is that a Mercury retrograde in the 3rd means that there could be glitches with websites, problems with emails, issues with social media. If you're wanting to launch these things, it's better to work on this stuff, and then when things go direct, then you can have a launch. But this is also about negative thought patterning and like where you're kind of needing to get out of your own way with negative self-talk and not feeling limited or burdened by old habits or old patterns that are keeping you from change. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing Mercury's transit through the sign of Virgo, which will be moving through your natal 2nd house, which deals with money, possessions, resources, spending, and self-esteem. Now, Mercury is traditionally associated with Virgo, so you've got a lot of strength with Mercury being in its ruling sign in your 2nd house. A lot of this can be about business, financial matters, making money, spending money, organizing resources. Now, Mercury is also connected to your 11th house of friends and also goals. The 11th house is also the money that is derivative from your business. And Mercury will slow down in the 2nd house. So I think like it's a combination of things. Generally, like when the Sun and Mars are in the 2nd house, we're spending money, right? But when Mercury is retrograding, it's like, wait a second, like, did I really need to spend this much money on this thing? Like, is that my goal? And so you can be feeling like money's going out, but you have these goals where you want to bring in more, you want to have more. You'll see with Mercury in opposition to Saturn off the bat where someone or something is not giving you something. It can be a coworker that's not willing to help you. It can be that you're finding out a partner doesn't want to financially help in some way. And you're like, oh, I didn't get the loan. I didn't get the credit card extension. Now I got to find a way to pay for something and it's on me. So the nice thing is Venus retrograde in your first house, you know, some of you guys may find that your values are changing anyway. You're not putting as much focus on possessions. Some of you guys are going, I'm going longer, you know, between getting my hair done, getting my nails done, or I'm doing it myself. And so there in turn, I'm saving a little bit of money. But I will tell you, be careful because finance is slow with this retrograde, okay? Second house spending needs to slow so that way you can actually obtain and you can have more. And I would be looking at when the Sun-Mercury cazimi takes place, right around, I think, the 6th of September as when you're going to be like, okay, now the money is coming back to me. So if you're feeling a little tight, finances might get easier around that time. It might also be that money is, you know, owed to you from a friend, or maybe you're supposed to be getting like a bump in your raise then, and it might come right around that time in September. What I like is that you are going to see Mercury several times trine Jupiter in your 10th house, which means like, you know, there is expansion and positive changes afoot in your professional realm. Maybe you're working a new job, maybe you've launched something, maybe you're working with a new group. Maybe it's just a matter of, you know, waiting for that new paycheck or that new line of resources to be kind of fully kind of getting to you to where you can actually use it or you can spend it. Or maybe you're busy paying things off because you've got Saturn in your 8th house that you're like, okay, more money is coming in, but I'm not really seeing it yet because it's going to expenses or loans or things of that nature. But trines to Jupiter, nevertheless, are going to really benefit you, especially if you're kind of in a creative business, or maybe you're trying to integrate more creative projects, or maybe it's a side hustle and you're like, I need some extra cash. Like, what can I do to drum up some business? Maybe you cash out on some stocks or something, and that ultimately ends up, you know, coming to you, but you have to wait until everything settles and then you transfer it to an account. Nevertheless, you have Earth trines taking place in Earth houses. So you're going to see physical shifts in your finances. It's hard to see if it's going to be about you making changes in your spending so you have much, or it's going to be about you starting to kind of really feel these extra lines of money kind of coming in. But things can feel tight. Be mindful with your spending. That's my recommendation. You know, lending out money right now, especially to friends, is not a good idea. And I also feel like this is about you getting very clear about what your goals with your resources are. You will see at the end of this year in mid-December, there will also be a retrograde that'll be dipping into your 6th house, which can be job changes. But frankly, for some of you guys right now, it almost seems like it's not a good idea because you got either a good thing going on or you're going back to work and making money that even if you're not totally thrilled where and how you're working, I don't really see anybody kind of cutting ties and changing jobs at the moment. I think you're going to be doing what's necessary to kind of keep that steady income coming in, and you're optimistic about what it means for the future. The card that I got for you is the Judgment card. So this is about making a pretty significant decision. It can be also, you know, the effects of decisions you've made in the past. So when I think of like the oppositions to Saturn, when I think of the trines to Jupiter, it's like if you've put in a lot of hard work and you've been making sacrifice and you've been really focusing on, you know, kind of having some kind of financial growth, some self-esteem growth, feeling more stable or secure, likely you're going to start to see the payoff of this. It might be some definitive decisions, though, about how you're going to be investing your time or your resources moving forward. Pretty much like retrogrades are karmic, right? Like things happen, and it's showing us basically whether or not we've been kind of in alignment with the lessons of that planet in that sign. So the Leo risings who are like, I'm doing well financially, I'm good, I'm not taking a hit, things are going smoothly, likely you've been doing your, you've been doing your Mercury work. Saturn's in your 8th house, so that's about not having as much support from other people. And maybe that's been harder because you've been told no, or you haven't had as much support, or you've had to do it on your own, but likely this will be a time where you're feeling more fulfilled. But those of you guys who are having issues because you may not realize that something about your goals and your spending habits are not in alignment. And if you do have some hiccups, it's to help you course correct this, okay? Good luck. For my Virgos and Virgo risings, obviously this is in your sign. So this is going to be an interesting one, especially those of you guys who are having this as a part of your solar return It does mean that Mercury will show up retrograde in your solar return chart. So there is something that you are rethinking or reworking all year long. Might be a good time to get a reading, honestly, especially with so many opposite planets in Pisces. I would consider it. But for you guys, Mercury is your ruling planet. So Mercury will be going retrograde, which is important because it affects your body in your sign. So if you're a rising Virgo, the Mercury retrograde is about re-evaluating how you communicate, how you look, something in regards to your appearance, maybe even your health. And Mercury also has connections to your 10th house, which deals with career. So I see this as, where are you reworking something about personal authority? Where are you getting clear with what your needs are in comparison to other people, right? Because Mercury opposed Saturn, which means you might have had a little bit of like, you know, a reckoning with a child or a romantic partner or a relationship in general. We will see several times throughout this transit that Mercury is going to trine Jupiter. So that's going to be basically saying you're open to learning, going back to school, traveling, talking to a mentor, talking to a guru, talking to a lawyer. You're open to traveling. You're open maybe even to relocating or making changes about your home front. So I like your chart ruler in a trine to Jupiter. I feel like, you know, everybody's going to benefit from this retrograde, but definitely the earth signs are going to have a little bit more of like an advantage because you guys are all going to be picking up energy from this particular retrograde. And like now is time to kind of get right with your beliefs and your philosophy. How sweet could life be? How amazing could it be if you did go back to school, if you did get a degree, if you did decide to relocate or move somewhere else? Jupiter also has connections traditionally to your 7th house. So it can be, well, are you open to relocating for love? Are you open to getting married? Do you need to talk to an attorney because you're ending a marriage? You know, that could be happening for some of you guys too. Do you need somebody to help you when it comes to your faith and your belief, right? So actually, Mercury in your sign is I think, I communicate, I assess. But the trine to Jupiter is I could live there, right? I could get a second degree. I could be more positive. And so it's going to be about making a huge shift in your perspective and trying to bring more positivity in. Obviously, a Mercury retrograde in your sign, you're going to, you know, sometimes have health issues. You're going to feel like you're putting your foot in your mouth. And Mercury's connection to your 10th house is how you're re-envisioning or reimagining what your status could be. And learning how possibly to be more assertive, especially when you've got situations where all of these oppositions in Pisces makes me feel like people aren't being clear with you. You know, they're being avoidant or dismissive, or they're not being honest. And you're like, okay, I feel crazy. What's going on? Especially with Mars going through your sign. And so, you know, the North Node is now in your 8th house, ruled by Mars, which means a lot of Virgos are realizing that they either need surgery or they need to heal something on a deep level in regards to blocks with finances, with resources, with intimacy, with, you know, sexuality. There's something that's getting reworked there that you're needing to kind of heal or acknowledge. And really, it's up to you. You have to be the one to do that. When you do that, it's going to be so much more powerful when the retrograde is ending and you see trines to Pluto and you're going to realize, you know, I was dealing with a broken heart and so I wasn't letting people in, or I had this issue or this hang up from childhood, or I was afraid to kind of work through this thing. And it'll be really rewarding, especially as you see some of these particular trines that are going to play out. Okay. Definitely just putting putting your foot in your mouth a little bit here though. So watch for the communication hang-ups and maybe where sometimes you overlook something. I know usually you guys don't, but overlooking something or misreading something or sending the wrong email can definitely happen. The card that I get for you is the Four of Coins. So this is about what do I hold on to and what do I let go of? This can be emotionally, this can be intellectually, this can be physically. I think of Mars going through there and maybe, you know, going back and forth with like, well, you know, am I ready to make the change? Am I open to possibly letting something go, whether it's baggage or weight or fears? And Four of Coins is about holding on to something too tight. It can also be about savings. And so there can be a sense of, you know, do I hold on to this old bag of memories? Do I, you know, donate it? And I would be really looking at what are you holding on to too tightly right now? Some things are worth saving, but what you're going to find with the North Node going through the 8th house is that the psychological effect of carrying too much can really take a toll on you. The South Node is now in your 2nd house, so it's about releasing and letting go. And a lot of these things might actually be relationship oriented. So definitely like taking care of your body, doing some breath work, you know, doing some grounding work, or maybe even seeing a healer can be really helpful during this time. Good luck, Virgo. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing Mercury's transit through your natal 12th house. And eventually Mercury will retrograde here as well. Now, the 12th house is what is secretive. It's subconscious. It's about your dreams. It's about what's hidden and what you're not aware of. The 12th house can be spiritual and metaphysical as well. So it's like very psychic in this particular area of your chart. And Mercury has connections also with the 9th house, okay, which has to do with belief, philosophy, traveling, anything in regards to mentors or education. So a Mercury retrograde in your 12th house can mean you're returning back to study something that you used to like work on or something that you used to believe. Maybe you're reviewing an old course or an old program. Maybe you're reconnecting with a teacher or a professor. A Mercury retrograde here can also bring some very wild dreams. They can be very significant, very symbolic, helping you kind of declutter subconsciously and kind of clear out the past. Mars being there as well is really interesting because Mars does deal with relationships, and the fact that Mercury and Mars are here tells me that there may be some like tension going on subconsciously with relationships and like questioning like, do I say something? Do I not say something? Mercury is retrograding and it's not going into your sign. It's slowing down. And it's looking back at your 11th house where you have also been having a Venus retrograde. So there's a lot of like, ooh, I have this anxiety about this thing. And it can be a friendship, it can be a relationship, and kind of questioning, do I say something to that person? Do I come out with it in regards to, you know, this problem? We can see sleep disturbances. We can also see challenges with traveling abroad here. That can definitely happen. And I would just say, you know, you really want to watch your habits, because between the planets that are going to oppose Saturn in your health sector and Mercury's eventual opposition to Neptune, this can be where there's like this undoing, and all of the work that you've been putting with Saturn in your 6th house to staying on task, staying on schedule, focusing on your health and your well-being can almost unravel a little bit. And you can feel like you're kind of getting a little squirrely, especially with Mars going through this part of your chart. So my advice is, if something is a problem, finding a way to be able to kind of deal with this in a peaceful manner. Therapy, meditation, rest, recuperation, dream work, hypnosis, all of these things can be really helpful in navigating moving forward. Several trines to Jupiter in your 8th house does tell me that part of what's going on is that you're realizing that something is either in need of a change or it's about to change. And with the trines to the 8th house, it is really sensitive. It's really psychic. It can also be about transition and death or regeneration. You may feel like there's more connection with the other side. You may also feel like therapy or psychological assistance can kind of really help move through some of these fears or through some of these traumas. And then at the final, degrees, when Mercury is direct, it will trine Pluto in your 4th house, which is about kind of clearing out a long-standing issue within the family or emotionally that's been kind of going on that you were able to kind of work through. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you, Libra. The card that I get for you is the 4 of Wands, which is a pretty positive card. It does talk about gatherings and reunions and celebrations. You know, I think of like Mercury trine planets in the 8th house, and is it celebrating the life of, friends, celebrating the life of loved ones? Jupiter and also eclipse is still in your 8th house. You are going to see this year, there are still some kind of endings that are going on, but where endings should be celebrated because it's going to bring some kind of new chapter or new kind of cycle. This will make sense more when we're getting into October and you're seeing eclipses in your sign because there is this whole process of releasing and kind of letting things go and allowing people to kind of come in and partner with you and assist you. But for right now, this makes me feel like there are happy gatherings, which might be taking place in private, right? With Mercury retrograde in your 12th. Retreats can be really good, going to retreat centers or, going and being out in nature and kind of just disconnecting and being able to be with like-minded people can be really helpful if you're feeling some of the more kind of staticky effects of the planets in the 12th house. So do consider maybe taking a little bit of a break and taking some time to just kind of recuperate and recover. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, we are going to be having Mercury come into Virgo. It'll be in your natal 11th house, where it will eventually retrograde. Now, the 11th house deals with your friends, your networks, goals, some of your goals revolving around how you want to make money financially as well, because it is second to the 10th house. And Virgo is a sign that also sextiles your ascendant if you're a Scorpio rising. So throughout this retrograde, it is in harmony with your sun, your moon, or your rising. Scorpio is about change, passion, transformation, rebirths. So you may be feeling like it's about kind of getting things in order before you go through that later in the fall. Now, Mercury also is associated with the 8th house, which is about joint resources, regeneration, transformations, letting go, debt, taxes, death. So watching Mercury go retrograde in your 11th, yes, there could be miscommunications with friends, right? There can be conflicts with friends, especially because Mercury is so close to Mars and Mars is your ruling planet. So you may play a role in, being more active socially, and then you might kind of find like, somebody gets kind of miffed about something. There can be some miscommunications over text or phone, so watch out for that. But the sextiles to your personal planets are what are going to help, and you are also going to see a number of trines to Jupiter actually in your 7th house of relationships and marriage. So single Scorpio risings, hanging out with friends, reconnecting, socializing, networking is going to directly positively impact your ability to connect with a potential romantic partner. I also feel like this is a really powerful time for you to be socializing and connecting with people professionally, because Jupiter rules your 2nd house of money. And you may find that if you're starting a group, joining a group, going out and participating in mixers or business brunches, likely you're going to drum up more clients, and you might also get referrals also from other existing clients if you have a client-based business. And just being in social situations or parties or reconnecting with friends might provide with a chance opportunity to meet a partner or an investor. For those of you guys who are in relationships, if you are partnered or if you are married, I could see Mercury in a trine to the 7th house is a lot of like, okay, how can we get on the same page about our goals? Are we socializing more? Do we want to go out and meet other friends? Do you want to go out to dinner with each other's friends and like kind of double date and stuff? That could happen. And Mercury's connection to the 8th house means that there's a lot of talking to your partner about what your goals are when it comes to finances, when it comes to investments, what you're doing with your money, how you can grow your resources, especially if you happen to work with a spouse, you want to talk to a spouse about investments, or if you have a business partner. The 11th house is the love you get from other people. So a retrograde here means that you might get more appreciation or more praise, or maybe your friends are speaking, your praises in front of a partner or a significant other, and giving you a lot of positive feedback. Towards the ends of the transit, we are going to see a trine to Pluto, which is your chart ruler, which means there's going to be some kind of powerful agreement or an alliance. But we will also see an opposition to both Saturn and Neptune at some point throughout this transit. part of me wonders, Scorpio, it can be that there's like, you meet somebody, but they're kind of back and forth about what they want when it comes to relationships. They may kind of be like in and out in regards to wanting something casual. If you are in a committed relationship, it can also mean that your partner is going back and forth with a creative project or going back and forth with a situation involving a child. Maybe you guys are going back and forth discussing, well, do we want to have a kid? Do we not? If we do, when do we do it? How do we do it? So try your best to communicate matters of home and family, creative projects and children with a sense of patience with a partner, because it does seem like there is like a method to the madness. And by the time you get to the end of the transit, as Mercury is coming into a trine with Pluto, which will be closer to October, you'll have a definitive decision to make in terms of how that's going to play out. All right, so let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the Eight of Coins. Working hard. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings are actually learning how to play more right now because of the Venus retrograde in the 10th house. Some of you guys are reimagining what you're doing for work, maybe realizing that there's a different way that you can be working, and maybe opting to be wanting to kind of connect and you know, market yourself, right? 11th house. So I do feel like this is about changing the way that you're working, but nevertheless, you might feel like you're having to work harder to socialize, get out there, make friends, meet people. You're having to be the one who's kind of putting together the mixers or the gatherings or the get-togethers or the Facebook group, what have you. Eight of Coins is about working hard and being able to perfect something. So I kind of get the feeling like there's a lot of positive energy that's supporting you connecting with groups of people, but also having to push a little bit harder when it comes to communication and trying to find ways to drum up resources. So you'll continue to keep doing that. Look for professional networking opportunities and events. I really recommend participating in some of these in person or online because it can really enhance the likelihood of expanding either your reputation or your business. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You will be experiencing Mercury's transit through your natal 10th house, which deals with your career and your reputation. Obviously, this is going to be a little loud for you, Sagittarius, as it will for all the mutable signs because it's happening in an angular house, which means you're going to see squares and oppositions that will be taking place. Okay, so the top of the chart is the 10th house. This is where you go to work, give presentations, deal with bosses. This is also about your role out in society. If you're not working, how other people kind of see you. So a retrograde here can get kind of loud, very similar to Gemini, where there's a feeling of being pulled in two directions between home and career. You may see some of the same things. I'm imagining this is a pretty high time, like seasonally, in regards to your work. So if you're like a seasonal gig worker, or if you just notice that business picks up more so the second half of the year, the Sun and Mars in your 10th house tells me that business might be very busy. You might have a very demanding schedule right now. And you've got loads of planets also in your 6th house. So things are not slowing down right now. I actually feel like for you, there's a lot of, it's been nonstop go, 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 that you haven't really had the time to reorganize or rework something about your professional life. You've just been like, ever since Jupiter moved into your 6th house, just day in and day out on the grind. This is a transit where when your 10th house Lord goes retrograde, you can rework something about your professional image. Some of you guys might decide that you're wanting to change the way other people see you. So new professional photos can happen. There can also be like new services that you're working out, new schedules that are coming out, new potential partnerships that you're going to be announcing out in the world as well. Your status might change. So it's not just about your professional life. It can be, I was single, now I'm married, I was in a partnership, now I'm starting my own company. So rebrandings can kind of happen in this part of your chart as well. The positive is that you are going to see Jupiter trine with Mercury on 3 separate occasions, and Jupiter rules your chart. So it tells me that you're kind of like problem solving, and you're trying to be like, okay, I'm going to rework something about a staff situation. I'm going to change my schedule. I'm going to change my health. I'm going to expand my office. And it goes hand in hand with some of the changes that you're making at work. Now, if you've been getting ready to launch something or taking time off of work, a retrograde can bring you back. It can bring you back to an old job that you used to work on, back into an old industry. It can also be you making a bit of a shift in regards to what you're doing altogether. This is not the transit that I would recommend making that definitive decision. Starting jobs, launching businesses, making big announcements during retrogrades are not ideal. I think some Sagittariuses are going to get a little overzealous with the first trine and be like, this is what I'm doing. And then going to realize in order to fulfill that, you're going to need staff, or you're going to need to change something about your routine, or there's something that has to shift before it can go full circle. So you will really benefit by really thoroughly waiting until probably closer to the beginning of October, when you're seeing the final trines, where you can really see it fully integrated. So you might want to wait for like launches and campaigns and things until the retrograde is over. Now Mercury, like I said, it has connections to your 7th house. So it can also be about like reconnecting with partners, reconnecting with people you used to work with, and finding that there are ways for you to be able to really grow your professional image. Towards the end of the transit, you will see that Mercury will oppose Neptune, which does mean that you're realizing for you to really go full steam ahead with your professional stuff, it does require you to spend more time away from home. It's taking you away from the kids and the family. It might require you to like be in office meetings and be doing more. And you're going to see some trines, some squares that'll be happening to your personal planets in Sagittarius. So you're going to feel a little frazzled. Bit of advice, you're going to want to know when the moon is going through Sag and when the moon is going through Gemini. During these particular periods throughout the Mercury transit, you're going to kind of get hit a little bit harder, and it might be harder for you to instigate change. Regardless, at the end of this transit, likely what you're going to find is that you're going to have a completely like reworked image. Maybe you've started a new job. Maybe you have figured out the path forward to getting things in order for the second half of this year, so things can be a lot more functional. And if you have to hire an assistant or somebody to help you with this process, so be it, because then when you start to see Mercury trine Pluto, you'll realize, I'm so much more productive. I can get so much more work done. I can make more money. And part of being a good boss is learning how to delegate tasks and not feeling like you have to do everything, right? These are some good problems to have, Sagittarius, to be honest with you. Pretty positive. See what the cards say. Why am I not surprised you're getting this card? This is about timing. It's being like, don't rush to do this, everything's done in this one swoop. Everything is a matter of timing. So the Temperance card says, heal, take time, reevaluate. Everything is going to happen at the right moment. Everything in balance. I've used the reference to like the crock pot several times. You have to really allow that for it to kind of sit and cook and all of the things to kind of come together before the recipe is like fully ready to serve. So you're going to have to let some of these things develop over those couple weeks in August and September before everything is like really ready to be served up, especially professionally in October. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You will be experiencing a Mercury transit through Virgo, and this will be going through your natal 9th house, okay? And obviously, Virgo's a sister sign, so especially if you have Cap, Sun, Moon, or rising within about 8 to 21 degrees, you'll be experiencing the trines, which is beneficial for you. And something to really look forward to is post-Saturn Mercury opposition. But at the end, when the retrograde is wrapping up and you start to see Mercury trine Pluto, and that's when you're going to be like, okay, everything is kind of getting worked out. Now, Mercury going through the 9th house brings attention to law, legal matters, publishing, higher education, traveling to foreign places, marketing campaigns, and belief and philosophy of some kind. Now, Mercury will retrograde through this part of your chart, which means it can be slowing down international travel, slowing down a legal matter, needing to return back and get some kind of documents, reevaluating your belief system, returning to school, needing to have a book edited before you print it, right? Things like that can kind of go on. And Mercury has connections also to your 6th house. So I kind of feel like this is about needing to hire people or needing to work with people to help you get these things done. So it can be that, you know, an attorney is still needing to process documents, or that you're needing to turn over, you know, an essay to a teacher and have them, you know, grade it or edit it. It can mean that you're looking for an editor for your book. You're maybe looking for somebody to help you, you know, plan some kind of travel. Maybe you're looking for somebody to, you know, help you or teach you more about a health matter or something in regards to like a pet. And you might have to do some training of some kind to kind of help brush up on your skills. That's possible here as well. What's positive that I like about this transit is that you are going to see Mercury trine Jupiter several times. So Jupiter rules the 12th house, which is what is kind of hidden and secretive, but Jupiter is a positive planet. So to me, it looks like you're going to have some positive events that are going to play out that might just feel like, you know, your lucky stars are aligning and you're getting some kind of gain out of it, or there's some kind of romantic opportunity or financial opportunity where there could be some growth. Also, I think this is probably going to be about communication with people at afar, so people who might be abroad, especially if there's like a lot of back and forth with people in other cities or in other places. Might take a little bit longer to work that out. But nevertheless, I see it being good. You know, those of you guys who are like writing something creative or kind of fantasy based, you might feel really inspired by your dreams. And that might be something that plays into what you're kind of working or developing, and bringing some kind of project together so you can kind of tell the story in a much more vivid way. And then finally, like I said, at the end of the transit, we will see Mercury come into a trine with Pluto, and you're going to feel like very passionate and very empowered by the fact that you've made the tweaks and the changes and all the things that you need to round about the beginning of October. What I would watch for with this transit, with the oppositions to Neptune, is issues also with travel. I think there could be some major issues with travel. Gadgets that can go missing. There can also be health-related issues that impact travel, scheduling-related issues that impact travel, and work issues that impact travel. Especially with Mercury and Mars moving side by side, I wonder if there's like a bit of like a family conflict or a squabble with relatives that might be further away, or maybe you're having to consult with an attorney over an estate issue or over an inheritance issue, especially because Venus is going retrograde in your 8th house. So some of you guys might benefit by connecting with professionals to kind of help you navigate this time, and look for the tail end of the transit to be something that's particularly empowering and helping you kind of work through what might kind of feel like a bit of like a crisis. The card that I get is the Hermit card, which is the card for Virgo. I was waiting for it. I was like, who's going to get this card? This is like a wait and see, you know, kind of process. I think the Virgo card or the Hermit card is like, okay, I'm going to go and think about it. I'll get back to you, you know, because Mercury is going to oppose Saturn. So somebody's going to propose something. You're going to say no. It's going to trine Jupiter a couple times. You're going to think about it. You're going to sit on it. And then Mercury will eventually come into an opposition with Neptune, which means you're going to go, you know, can I trust this? Does this feel right? It might mean you're journaling more. It might mean that you're just kind of reflecting more in preparation for the end of this particular transit. But the Hermit card is like knowing when to go your own way and kind of sitting in private and reflecting and meditating on, you know, what the bigger meaning of life is, or what the purpose is, or what direction your life is going in. I love a Mercury retrograde in the 9th for like getting back in touch with your relationship with, you know, your belief system, or practicing something new, or reading, you know, meditation books or sacred texts or things revolving around divination. So if you've lost a little bit of faith, this can be a time where you can get your faith back and also help tap into your intuition and use it in very practical ways so you're feeling empowered and not like you're kind of driving blindly, right? Good luck, Capricorn. All right, so we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing Mercury's transit through your natal 8th house, which is going to be about joint resources, taxes, intimacy, psychological changes, and secrets. Mercury obviously is connected to Virgo, and you've got a number of planets that are going to be going through Virgo. So you're going to see that Mercury will be moving pretty closely to Mars, which tells me that, to me, there's like a bit of maybe renegotiating something, returning back to a contract, an agreement, something that needs to be signed, reevaluating the terms to something could be coming up. Refinancing something maybe can be coming up as well. And Mercury also has connections to your 5th house, which is about creative projects, children, lovers, and joy. So speculative investments, whether it's the stock market or gambling, and money that is kind of shared with a lover or a child, or money that you're giving to a younger person, there can be something that can kind of change here. It's interesting that the transit starts off first with Mercury and Saturn in opposition, so it does look like somebody is going to be asking you for resources or asking you to kind of make a sacrifice or to make an investment or give more of something, and you're going to go, no. And then Mercury is going to retrograde, and somebody might come back to you and try to renegotiate with you. It can be a kid that's asking for money. It can be, you know, an ex that's asking for, you know, their resources back, or renegotiating what can be a business agreement or something in regards to some kind of support. I don't know. I kind of feel personally like with this particular trine, what is working in your favor is the trine to Jupiter, because Jupiter is your resources. So it's almost like haggling with someone like for a month or so, and until you kind of like really get a good deal. You know, somebody's like, you know, it needs to be this much, and you're like, no, I won't do it. And they're like, okay, maybe just this much, and you're like, no, I won't do it. Renegotiating also, things revolving around money owed. You know, you can settle a tax issue with this. You can settle potentially like, like reallocating those funds, especially if you sold stock and you need to reinvest it in something, or if you sold a property and you need to reinvest it in something. You may find that you can kind of like switch it around in some way, so you can like alleviate the need to actually have to pay for something. That is possible. But where I would be careful is with surgical procedures, health procedures, things involving debt, taking out loans. You know, if you're trying to apply for a credit card or a loan, it might take a little bit longer. Look for the trines to Jupiter to be where like support might come from a family member, or you might pull money out of you know, the value of a home, or you might actually get an inheritance or some money that you didn't see coming that, you know, your spouse gets. Changes involving other people's resources essentially is what happens here, but there is a delay, right? And I would recommend not investing money or gambling with money that you don't have, because there can be a sense of being like, this feels like it's a good idea, and then it doesn't, and then you realize, oh man, you know, I've got other bills that are due, or my partner's asking me for my half of the rent, you know, something like that can go on. What I like also is going to be at the tail end, the trines to Pluto, because Pluto's in your 12th house. It is about some powerful business negotiations that might be taking place behind the scenes, and like where some of these negotiations are helping change your career or your reputation in the world, and potentially navigating, making some deals that might bring you some either resources or business in the long term is definitely very possible here. And also at the tail end, you're going to see that Mercury will trine Uranus, and Uranus is your modern day ruler. So I'm really thinking some of you guys might be kind of like going back and forth with an issue involving either a younger person or like a relative, maybe a family member, and how that impacts your physical or your financial situation at home. But for the most part, Mercury trine Uranus is like, you know, somebody says, well, what if I help with this? And you're like, okay, great, that'll remedy the situation. Like, we can work on it together. Obviously, Earth trines in what are typically water houses. So this can also be very psychic, very emotional, very sensitive. And definitely in the 8th house, that's when secrets can be revealed. So I'm wondering, when the Sun and Mercury come into connection, if this is a secret that you end up finding out that's related to a partner, okay? The card that I get for you is the 5 of Cups, which I feel like can be about mourning. It can be about grief. It's about needing to let something go. It can be feeling overwhelmed about the state of a situation where you're disappointed. You know, the 8th house can be about endings. It can be about transitions and saying goodbye to people or goodbye to situations. I do feel like it's about also coming to terms with the things that you cannot change and accepting them and working with the trines to Uranus and Pluto and going like, I just have to let go and let God. Otherwise, you can stay in this perpetual state of just like mourning and feeling like you're stuck and feeling sad. I know this is some heavy energy for you guys. You have Venus retrograde in your 7th house. Some of you guys are going through some big relationship changes. The squares to Uranus in your 4th house is also about clearing out the past. And sometimes the past comes up and it creates relationship issues. Sometimes it's also disrupting your home. But my advice is not allowing yourself to get stuck in a state of disappointment and feeling low. Wanting to shake you out of this and really looking at it as, okay, if a home or a living situation comes to an end, if a financial situation kind of comes to an end, rather than getting stuck in the trauma drama of it, actually initiating change can actually pull you out of this cycle. Let me know, how are you guys doing with this? I'm very curious because that can be a more challenging place to have a retrograde. And I'm hoping that you guys are well with that. That looks like some heavy stuff. And then we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You'll be experiencing Mercury entering into Virgo, which is your natal 7th house if you're a Pisces rising chart. And the 7th house is relationships, partners, it's your services, it's your relationship with counselors, business partners, romantic partners, spouses. Now, while Mercury rules this house, and a Mercury retrograde here can very much be about miscommunications with partners. It can be reconnecting to therapists, hearing from exes, renegotiating terms in a relationship, renegotiating terms also potentially with a work relationship, right, Virgo? But what really catches my attention is the fact that Mercury rules your 4th. So you may not be going back and forth with a romantic partner, you may be hashing it out with a relative, with a sibling, right, with a parent. And all of this energy that you're going to see, you know, Mercury and Mars is going to be about, you know, partners getting a little testy or other people being a little bit more difficult or a little bit more critical, more challenging to deal with. Mercury will oppose Saturn, so it looks like somebody was trying to, at the beginning of the transit, connect to you and you were like, I'm good. And then the retrograde is like, hi, I'm still trying. And I also feel like you really have to pay attention to your boundaries, right? Saturn is really strong here and it can represent with some of the first oppositions, you know, Mars opposite Saturn, Mercury opposite Saturn. No, that's not good for me. And then the retrograde happens and you let them back in or you reconnect with them. And then by the time Neptune opposes Mercury, you're like, why did I reconnect with that person? I realize they make me feel awful, or my energies are low, or I feel like I'm getting drained and I'm just sacrificing and I'm giving to someone. And now I'm losing touch with myself. You may also find that there's like a lot of somebody giving you advice and you're like, I don't know how I feel about this advice that's being given. You know, I feel like they're being very literal and very direct. And what about me and how that affects my emotions or my energy? So it can be harder to relate with this aspect. The positive, because there is positive, is that you're going to see Mercury and Jupiter trine several times, which is opening up your 3rd house of communication. And Jupiter is your traditional chart ruler. So maybe if you're having issues with a family member, a sibling, an aunt or a cousin, you know, jump in and they help. Maybe, you know, in order to better communicate with someone, you know, you use a better form of communication. I think Jupiter and Uranus is like, well, do we go to counseling? Do we go to therapy? You know, are we meditating and taking 10 minutes before we try to have a resolution? Are we maybe downloading like an app to be able to kind of better connect in our relationship and answering questions about ourselves with one another, so we have something to kind of discuss and like work towards so we can find common goals, maybe. I think all of these things are possible. You know, I feel like for many of you guys who are kind of feeling with this retrograde, oh, I'm having some relationship issues, you want to wait until the Venus retrograde is done, and likely when Venus comes in opposition with Saturn, also in October, that might be a better time to make a decision. And right now, maybe you're observing whether or not, people are actually actively working on things that would give you the wherewithal to actually want to reconnect. Now, if you're single, it can be a situation where you're like, do I want to get back out there and date again? Is it a hassle? How do I meet people? Who's out there? It's not necessarily bad. It's just trying to get you to get out of the house. You might have like family members and relatives maybe trying to set you up with someone, and you might be kind of like, I don't know about this. My mom said, they want to introduce me to this guy, and I meet him, and I'm just like, he looks nothing like his pictures. There can be a sense of you potentially like wanting to reject other people, and there can be a sense of you getting back into it. And if you're doing it during the retrograde, you can't judge the dating scene or anybody negatively because of so much retrograde energy in your 6th and your 7th house, that it's just going to be a more challenging time in adapting. But sometimes we make these changes when we're in a retrograde, and by the time the direction hits, we realize, hey, it was worth the work, and maybe I met someone. Very karmic things happen with retrogrades in the 7th house. And so the positive is the trines to Jupiter. Maybe you decide to use an app. Maybe you decide to get out in your local kind of neighborhood and you go shopping and you meet some people and then you connect with somebody naturally. Maybe you're traveling and maybe you use travel as an opportunity to better reconnect with a partner. Regardless, give it till after the retrograde to make a decision. That's my recommendation. And keep your standards high, your expectations low. And the people who are willing to make the changes to connect with you and better communicate likely will be the ones that will stick. Let's see what the cards say for you. Ooh, I like it. Ace of Coins, new opportunities, new physical changes, new growth. I love that Mercury trine Jupiter can be intellectual growth, right? Things that are valuable, conversations you have with people. Rather than just checking out a relationship and just dismissing people, really getting to the heart of the issue and trying to figure out whether or not there's something valuable there that can be salvaged, where it's an opportunity to better understand each other and clear the air rather than walking away. To me, this seems like offers. So it can be, therapists willing to offer you assistance. It can be people willing to partner with you, and the opportunity this can bring you financially as well. I think of the trines to Jupiter, and it is a wealth of information, right? A wealth of information. And that information might be something that, comes from the form of a book or a podcast or something that gives you something that's invaluable. And really helps you kind of look at relationships and communicate differently with a partner. So opportunity, obviously, for money, resources, collaboration. So could it be clients? It could be, new services also, and things that you're going to put out there possibly, especially if you have like an online presence. So, a podcast or a YouTube channel or a blog or an online business. Those trines can definitely bring more in. But I definitely think this is going to be positive for you, Pisces. I like it. I like it a lot. And I feel like there's a lot of room to grow and plant new seeds in potential relationships. Okay. I hope that was helpful for you guys and gave you a little bit more insight into this Mercury retrograde that we're going to be having in Virgo and the whole Mercury transit all together. I know that the retrograde is not going to be for some time, and this is coming out really early. But like I said, you really want to be working with the trines to Jupiter. So you might have to come back to this video, write some of this stuff down, and feel free to come back and leave comments. I'd love to hear your guys' experiences and what positive growth manifested for you and what positive conversations you guys had to leading you to healthier relationships, healthier financial situations, better habits. That's what I'm really kind of holding space for. Leave me your comments below. As always, I always appreciate your likes, your comments, and your shares and your subscriptions. It really supports my work. And if you guys want to support more, if you head over to my channel on my homepage, you can go to the memberships. You can join my memberships. Some people have asked me recently if I have a Patreon. I do not, but I have really several different levels that you can support my work on through YouTube. I don't know. Do you guys think I should get a Patreon? Maybe I would consider that. Sure. Especially for those of you guys who might be interested in extended content, I would consider doing that. If I thought there was enough people who wanted to support me doing that, I would consider it. But yeah, you can support me by donating. There's a PayPal link that's in all my videos. So if you want to buy me a cup of coffee or send me a tip, you can do that as well. and help me continue to keep making content full time for you guys. As we go through these transits, keep in mind that I'm here on Friday nights. I do live readings by donation. So we do tarot or astrology. So if you're like, hey, I want a more involved kind of perspective on how this is going to impact me, you can get a reading. Equally, I provide one-on-one services live via Zoom. So you can click on my website below. If you go to beyondtheveiledtarot.com, you can book a session with me. I am booking in September and October right now. But if you are, having a significant Mercury transit, or maybe you're a Virgo and you're getting ready to have your birthday and you want a solar return reading, I do that. Click on readings and you can go and see my list of services and my availability. And I have courses and other things there as well. So I look forward to probably talking about this a little bit more as the retrograde gets closer, but at least you guys have the dates and you're aware of what you need to be working on. Equally, we will touch on this in the horoscope, so you guys can find that on Thursday. So Thursday is when we're going to have the August 2023 horoscopes. That's all for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see all of you guys back here very soon. Take care.